This month, Matt Trainer is going to be the host of the Action Hour. It's about the old bootstrapping program coming back to life, which is also part of something that Matt and I've been working on quite a bit, which is mentorship. And Matt is probably in this presentation going to tie both programs together and show you how it works and how it will benefit our chapters, especially chapters that are struggling. But it doesn't mean that good chapters could not use some help at times also. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over as long as Janet Lapine is not going to make me really dizzy by moving her camera around. So Matt, go ahead and take the floor.
Oh, thank you very much, Gordon. I want to welcome everybody to tonight's Action Hour. I'm glad to see we've got some good attendance, and hopefully we'll have some more people join as we get started here. For those that don't know me, I think I know most everybody on here, but for those that might not know me, my name is Matt Trainer. I'm a member of the Augusta, Georgia chapter of AMBUCS, and I'm the newest national president-elect for National AMBUCS. If y'all give me just one moment, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started with
You know what you're doing there, Matt?
You would think, yeah, the tech guy would know what he's doing. How's this?
I can
Does that
see
work?
it.
All right, great. So as Gordon mentioned, today's action hours, we're going to cover the bootstrapping, the restarting of our bootstrapping program and our mentorship program. And let me see. All right, let's start off with just a little bit of history. Let me move this out of the way so I can read what I've got going on here. So the Bootstrap program is actually a revitalization of a program of what was originally called a club assistance plan. And this was developed many years ago to encourage successful chapters to help out smaller and struggling chapters, specifically in membership growth. Its formal name of the Bootstrap program was adopted in 1990, inspired by the success of the Big Hat program's Old West theme. So we've decided to continue with the name, and we've just decided to expand it a little bit. We're helping out new chapters, small chapters. We're also helping out any chapters that are struggling. And we're not just focusing on membership with the Bootstrap program, which is what the old legacy program was more about, but we're trying to help out in any area of need that a chapter might wish to have some help with. As I mentioned here, we're looking to the bootstrap refers to pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. And in this case, we're looking at providing resources in areas of need for chapters, whether it be membership or also fundraising or just maybe mission fulfillment in general. Say, for instance, you're a chapter that does a lot with giving away Amtrikes, but maybe you want to take on some things like home modifications in the way of maybe ramp buildings or get into the scholarship space if you haven't done that. But those are some other areas that we would be looking to also help out with the Bootstrap program. Let's cover a little bit of like who's who and some of the responsibilities of those people as we've laid them out in our new and improved Bootstrap program. For a chapter that requests or is deemed as needing intervention, we've come up with all kinds of terms lately as to what to call these chapters. We don't like saying struggling chapters because maybe they're not really struggling. They might have, maybe they only have 5 or 6 people, which makes them vulnerable, but they might still be doing good things. And they just might need a little help in a certain area, say to boost that membership. Or perhaps they've just gone a little incommunicado, dropping maybe communication with a certain chapter isn't going as well as we would like, or something like that. We didn't really like to use the term dark or disengaged or struggling for these chapters. So we came up with a name for them to call them the Frontier Chapter for bootstrapping purposes. Your regional director and your district governor for that chapter, if the district governor exists, they will act as the bootstrap coordinator. As a real world example, I like to think of them as kind of like a project manager. They might not actually be doing the work, but they are very hands-on and involved with the planning and the progress that is going on, and assisting with figuring out what the areas of needs are for our frontier chapter that's looking for some assistance. And the district governor, the regional director and the district governor, we're not necessarily going out there and policing these chapters. Ideally, the chapter that needs, that is looking for some bootstrapping would reach out to the district governor and the region director, asking for assistance, because we hope that there's a good line of communication between these parties and the regional director. However, if a regional director or if the national office feels like there's that maybe a chapter might need some assistance, hopefully the district governor and the region director for that chapter would be able to engage them and encourage them to see if they are willing to accept some assistance in these areas. And the bootstrapper is actually the entity that will provide mentorship and personal assistance throughout the process. The bootstrapper could be an individual person as a coach or a mentor. It could be a team of coaches or mentors, could perhaps be the region director or the district governor, or it could actually be a chapter that helps out with the bootstrapping. In the old program, it was the old bootstrapping program was pretty much focused around a chapter helping them out. But we want to be sure, we want to provide any type of mentorship, whether it be an individual person or a group of people or a chapter in these areas. We're not going to be discriminating for whoever wants to provide assistance in these areas. Anybody has any questions, feel free to just jump right in and ask away. First things first, one of the big things, if a chapter is having some difficulties, one of the things that needs to be done right away is make sure you're right financially. If your dues or if your Amtrak invoices are in arrears, that will put you, that will knock you out of good standing with the organization if you're overdue by 30, 60, or 90 days. And we do not want that. That's the first thing that we want to try to get right. If you are overdue on invoices, you will drop out of good standing and you won't be able to place orders for Amtrak's going forward. So that's the very first thing we want to make sure that you have in order for a chapter. At the national level, make sure that you are caught up. And, sometimes that means that there's some in-house financial issues that probably might need to be touched up, cleaned up. Make sure that your chapter members, make sure that they're billed appropriately. Make sure that they're caught up on their dues, on their accounts payables and receivables. Make sure your chapter roster's cleaned up. If you've got some dead weight on there, go ahead and clean them up. If you are struggling financially, maybe you don't have a treasurer that's engaged, then that's something you should be looking at. You make sure that your officers are maintaining effective club operations and doing their thing. And if you do have some problems, maintain communication with the national office and your regional director, because if you are struggling to, make payments, national can help you out with some payment plans, but don't just go, like a year of not paying and not being in communication with anything, because that's when it becomes really a challenge. And we'd hate for it to, for a chapter to be too far gone before we find out that they're really in dire need of help, and we don't want them to be beyond help at that point. Some chapters sometimes feel like, well, maybe we'll just fold, and and maybe we'll start back up in a year or two. Ideally, we'd love to just keep a chapter going rather than try to start up a new rather than have a chapter fold and then think that they'll start back up again. That's just a lot of work that usually is not, that can be problematic. We'd like for a chapter to be able to not fail on us, especially if they've been doing good things in that community. We'd love to work with them and try to get them going. So if you're right financially and you got your rosters and your officers kind of squared away, we'd like for these chapters to have productive chapter meetings. We'd like to see these held, try to have something on a regular place, date, and time basis. If you have not been meeting for you've not been meeting regularly, please try to go ahead and schedule a meeting as soon as possible, even if it's over Zoom. And if you are, say, you've been meeting via Zoom and maybe only once a month, perhaps look at taking that next step to move up to meeting in person on a regular basis. Try to maintain a schedule. And if you have and if you have been meeting over Zoom, as I said, it's great to maybe try to go ahead and find a place where you can actually meet in person. That way you're kind of more inviting for new members to come in and become part of the chapter. And I think I've already stressed a little bit about communication here, but lines of communication between all involved parties are imperative for bootstrapping to be a success, especially very early on in the process. We certainly want to encourage all chapters to reach out to their regional director, their district governor, if there is one, to go ahead and request some assistance as soon as possible. Ideally, there's good lines of communications already going on between the chapters, and their regional and district representatives. And so there's no surprises going on. Let's run through some of the expectations on some of these roles that we just talked about. Our bootstrap coordinator is our regional director and/or district governor. As I mentioned earlier, I liken this to, a project manager in some real world applications. So the coordinator, your regional director, your district governor, they will be the ones that should on a continual basis monitor chapter statuses. So that way they can kind of have a pulse on how chapters are doing. And, so if a chapter is not necessarily, maybe they're feeling a little modest, they don't really want to ask for help, but perhaps the regional director can, just reach out to them and kind of coax out of that chapter. How are you doing? Is there any way that we can be supportive of you? As I mentioned earlier, we're not in the, regional directors aren't in the business to police you or to tell you how to run your chapter or things like that. But I do want all chapters to feel welcome to be able to approach their regional director and their district governor should they feel like there's any areas that they need to have a discussion about. We're hoping all the regional directors will educate themselves on the Bootstrap program and help promote it and encourage it in their newsletters and communications with their chapters. This is going to be available out there now. They'll want to assess chapters. If a chapter comes up to a regional director and says, hey, we'd like a little bit of help, we think one of the first things that should be done is go ahead and assess what is that chapter doing right? What is their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What would they like to accomplish through this Bootstrap program? What areas of needs are they looking at being addressed? We can also talk about success measures at that time and what success would look like. That the Bootstrap coordinator would not necessarily be the person doing the implementation work. Sometimes maybe they would, but usually they would just act as a high-level manager throughout the program to make sure milestones are being reached and that things are being handled on a timely basis. Ideally, if a chapter reaches out to that regional director, things get moved fairly quickly. We don't want the chapter to feel like they're being ignored or their needs aren't being met on a expeditiously. Help with selecting a motivated and knowledgeable bootstrapper. In some case, and we'll talk a little bit later on in this presentation about our mentorship program and the mentor teams that we are building to help out to be bootstrappers for these chapters. Provide support for success, guide the bootstrapper as needed to ensure the project is positive and impactful. Determine and assess success measures. So that way, if you don't have a goal to meet, then, it might be, you might just get on it. Things might be a little wayward and you want to have some pretty well-defined goals and make sure that you are on track for that chapter to meet those goals. And then if a bootstrapping program is successful, we want to make sure the regional director and the district governor theirs will provide acknowledgement and recognition for a successful bootstrapping program. And we'll cover some thoughts around that a little later in the presentation also. Bootstrapper. This is the person that's actually going to be doing the work. And as we talked about earlier, that could be individual or a team of coaches or mentors, could be the regional director or the district governor, or it could be a chapter that is willing to, step up and help out. Bootstrapper will work with the Frontier chapter president and its officers to address, evaluate, and improve areas of need. Conduct the evaluations, as we mentioned earlier, find out what the strengths and weaknesses are with the chapter, and help figure out what they would like to accomplish through the bootstrapping programs and what their goals are in those areas. Ideally, somebody within that chapter would be, or persons would be identified and trained for leadership positions. If for instance, there might need to be a new committee spun up in that chapter, and you ideally would want to come up with being able to identify who are the members in that chapter that can be that would be good fits for that committee and for the for the chair of those committees to make sure things going forward are handled at the chapter level. Develop and implement strategies in these areas. A lot of these areas of need will sometimes perhaps need to have an event or a program organized, and ideally the bootstrapper would be a little bit instrumental in helping kicking off those events, or go ahead and get that program going, and which would ideally then be turned over to the chapter for an ongoing basis, or be handled by a committee within that chapter going forward. Ideally, we would have planning calendars that would allow for the tracking of progress, and this would allow for any, reiterations in terms of how is that chapter doing? Are we on track for what we need to do, or do we need to make some adjustments to how this approach is going in order to make sure that we meet, the goals for that chapter's needs? And of course, we want to always look forward to the future to make sure that after the bootstrapping program is complete, this isn't something that just quickly gets dropped or maybe fades off as time goes by. Ideally, there will be some sustainability that has been planned for to make sure that going forward, those areas, especially if it's mission fulfillment, that those areas continue to thrive within the chapter. And the third part of our little of our who's who under responsibilities, the Frontier chapter. And usually this will be the president, but as we've identified, there'll probably be other members within the chapters that will all need to be getting out and pulling their weight. The chapter needs to obviously be involved with the discussions early on as to being honest about what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. Help identify the key roles and the tasks that are out there, and what are the actionable items that need to be assigned to those people, and what are the timelines associated with them. And ideally, once you figure that out, you make sure that your entire chapter is on board with that by bringing it to the chapter's board for approval and for making sure that everybody is, on board with this. You want to commit to change. You want to make sure that your entire chapter is involved with it, and hopefully the leaders within that Frontier chapter will be leading by example, and setting a good example for the entire chapter to help pull in the same direction and make sure that the bootstrapping program is a success. Sometimes quick wins are a good thing to focus on. That can help with the morale of that Frontier chapter. If they can see that there is some progress early on, that could help motivate them to go ahead and jump headfirst into making sure that the overall bootstrapping program for that chapter is going to be a success. Making sure that you have good planning is obviously very important. You really don't want to go in there without a good plan. You really want to make sure you have clear goals, timelines, and make sure that try to get as many folks involved within that chapter as possible. And ideally, if you're doing good things, make sure that you go ahead and toot your own horn. Try to, we talked about first things first and making sure that you have chapter meetings going on, but I always think that a quick win for a chapter that needs to get back on their feet, or for new young chapters, getting involved with visibility items. Make sure that get your social media up and running if you don't have something going on already. And if it's been a while since you've posted on Facebook or something, go ahead and start getting some visibility out there through social media or through news. Make sure that you're doing a chapter newsletter. That's a quick and easy win there and making sure that the chapter knows what's going on. And also let us know what you're doing at the national and the regional level, and also within your community, to help get some visibility going. And if membership is an area that you're struggling in, touting what you're doing within your community will hopefully help with some of those membership challenges. Success measures. These are very important. You want to make sure that you actually have some goals that are set early on and that is agreed upon by everybody that's involved. Don't feel bad if short-term goals are modest. I actually probably recommend that. And that's why earlier I mentioned that sometimes going for quick wins or low-hanging fruit in terms of those areas of need can be very helpful in terms of getting the ball rolling and making it feel like, that there is progress being made from the get-go. Make sure you have long-term goals also, but that those are reasonable and that they're also set up to make sure that, ongoing sustainability and growth is a thing. And sometimes when you talk about measures, sometimes it's not, you can just say, well, let's see if we can sign up 3 new members in a quarter or in a year, something like that. Sometimes you want to prioritize quality over quantity. Just saying we're going to sign up 3 new members, in my opinion, isn't enough. You want to make sure that those new members that you recruit are also, properly get a proper orientation to the AMBUCS chapter in the organization. Make sure they're assigned to a committee. Make sure that they're put to work right away. Don't just look to just get some warm bodies at a meeting. We want to make sure that they are actually put to work and that they feel part of the group. And so be mindful about not just prioritizing going for a number. We want to make sure that we're adding some value when we work on these areas. Rewards. A lot of these rewards are forthcoming. The committee that put together the bootstrapping program did decide that we do want to see some rewards for successful bootstrapping. Our committee did make that recommendation, but I will point out that a lot of this is subject to the awards committee reviewing and coming up with what is the proper recognition for a successful completion of the bootstrapping program. Our committee didn't feel like that was appropriate for us to come up with that. But we do feel like, obviously, self-satisfaction, helping make a chapter successful and being part of our national organization is obviously one of pride and fulfillment from helping these others. And we have recommended to the awards committee that we do feel like chapters should earn points if they are assisting other chapters in completing the bootstrapping program, and also individual recognition for the mentors that will also be helping with successful bootstrapping. So once the awards committee takes these recommendations under advisements, we will hopefully have some awards, some type of rewards recognition for associated with the bootstrapping program. Any questions so far before I switch over to talking a little bit about our mentorship program?
No.
All right,
Switch away.
go ahead. No. All right, let's move on to mentorship next. A lot of this, I'll just take a step back and talk about the big picture here for a little bit. We've got a lot going on at the national level that we're trying to provide to our organization. This past year, the bootstrapping program was, we picked that up. We decided to reinvent it and revitalize it. And this year, National President Gordon Shaw, one of his initiatives for his presidential year has to do with mentorship. And then with me becoming national president next year, my planned initiatives have to deal with trying to streamline new chapter building. And so we like the fact that we're kind of the executive committee has got initiatives that all align and seem to segue very nicely into each other. And they also align with recommendations of a new 3-year strategic plan that our organization adopted in the July board meeting. So there's a lot of stuff going on that you're going to hear a lot about, and we're very pleased that that we've got national officers that are all sitting down together and trying to make sure that a lot of our initiatives are aligned with not only what we want to see accomplished during our terms, but also are in alignment with the strategic plan that we hope will have that will hope benefit our national organization over the next 3 years. So you guys will hear a lot about that in the coming months, and especially about a year or two down the line when our strategic planning starts moving from planning phases and getting into implementation phases. You should start hearing a lot more about this. So from a big picture standpoint, the mentorship program is a big deal. It's obviously going to be a critical piece of the Bootstrap program that we just talked about, and also for new chapter building. We want to also make sure that not only the spark plug for a new chapter is going to help out with the new chapter, but that they also have resources that can be helpful for them. The mentorship program, we've developed that by reaching out and picking up volunteers with strengths in areas such as fundraising, new chapter development, Amtrakes, or membership, or simply knowing what it takes to keep a chapter going strong. And they are invited to be a part of our membership team. They have been identified via an ongoing membership questionnaire where we have collected basic contact information and asked which areas of expertise would you feel comfortable supporting. And this experience is expected to help make a meaningful difference for other chapters. The questionnaire that we have out there, we released that in July, near the end of July, and it is actually still available out there. And the plan is we'd like to keep it out there for ongoing purposes. If you are interested in checking out that questionnaire and maybe responding to it, you can find it under Hub Announcements on the Membership Hub. It's a couple months. It's been out there for a couple months now, so you need to scroll down about 4 or 5 announcement items before you see it. But if you're interested in going out there and checking it out, we would welcome, because ideally we're looking for a group of folks. We're looking to make sure that we have a wide breadth of expertise, and also that we have depth, that so one individual doesn't feel like they're being taxed with having to handle all of the mentorship or bootstrapping in a particular area of need. Here are the mentorship teams that we have out here now. If you see anything out there that tickles your fancy, that you feel like you're somewhat of an expert in, or that or maybe if you've got some good resources laying around, we would love to do that, because for the mentorship teams, the mentorship committee, which we actually do have a committee for this year, our next steps for that mentorship committee is now that we've identified an initial group of folks for these to round out these teams, we're looking to see if there's any of these areas that only have one or two people. As I mentioned, we'd love to have a little more depth in all these areas, so we don't have just one person focusing on this. So we're taking volunteers, but we're actually also maybe making some, directed asks for folks that, if you got somebody out there that's really good at, say, grant writing. I'll be honest, we only have one person that has signed up to be a mentor for grant writing. So if you know somebody out there that is good at grant writing and doesn't mind sharing some of their expertise in that area, encourage them to go ahead and sign up for that. We're also, for this month, I and my committee are helping pull together existing resources that we have right now in all of these areas. We've got a lot of stuff that's already out there on the hub, and we'd like to make sure that we have kind of like a resource library that's available for each of these teams. And we're also possibly going to look at restructuring how the resources section on the hub is listed to be able to make it easy to find resources under each of these areas. So as we pull together the existing resources that we have out there, we'll reach out to each of the individual mentor teams and say, hey, here's what we have already out there. Is this information out of date? Can we get it updated? Do you have something about this? Are you as a volunteer to help mentor for ramp building? Do you have some good information about the ramps that you are building? Do you have, can you document how you go about it and things like that? Can you document partnerships that you have with, say, like the local local coding in your community, or with a lumber provider, those types of things. So we're looking to build a resource libraries for each of these mentor teams. And so that comes to the conclusion of my presentation. We hope that if you're interested in the bootstrapping program, or whether you be a chapter that's looking for some assistance, or if you're interested in being a mentor, we hope that will lead to successful chapter growth and the furthering of our organization. As we mentioned, you don't necessarily even need to be what we would consider a struggling chapter. If you're just looking to expand your mission fulfillment in any of these areas, fundraising, scholarships, needing to get visibility, under visibility, sometimes that involves having somebody that has a little bit of a technical background to be able to spin up a website for you or get you on social media. There's all kinds of stuff here. So if there's any folks that are interested in that, or if there's any mentor team areas here that we perhaps have not, that you don't see listed on here, that perhaps that we have missed, we would love to hear feedback on anything that I've touched upon here. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and go ahead and just open things up to the group. Let me know what you guys think of this. Is it a good thing? Do you have concerns? Do you have any? We'd love to hear from you.
Love some help.
Don't everybody talk at once.
Oh, I know. I didn't do that great of a job. I know I haven't solved all our problems here with just that presentation. I know it's a lot of information that I've probably just thrown out there. We still have some work to do. I think we still need to figure out how the logistics will go about in terms of the logistics behind engaging and activating these mentors. We need, in some cases we have like a good number of folks that have signed up for a particular mentor team. So in that, and ideally in the cases where we have a lot of folks, we could either do it where we go through a rotational basis. I think in some cases where the location of the chapter that is interested in help, in assistance, if we do have a very broad level of expertise under a certain mentor team, then somebody that is close by to that chapter, that could be maybe a driving factor as to, to help them out. Because then the opportunity exists to actually visit that chapter, get to know their members, perhaps attend a meeting, and get a better hands-on feel for how that chapter's operating and what can be done to help with improvements there.
And if I can add something, many years ago in the Irving chapter, we mentored bootstrapped a couple of clubs, and it's really important. You can save some very valuable clubs that become assets, but I would warn or caution people that you need to be able to commit a year to one of these clubs. And by that, I don't mean you have to be there every day, but you need to be able to go to a meeting at least, I would say, once a month, or even if they have more than that, maybe half their meeting, to work with them and get them focused on the right things to do. And it also helps if you get someone, if you are a mentor and you're picked to go help a club in your area, if you get one of your other members in your club to go with you. It doesn't have to be the same one each time. And it doesn't hurt to be a new member that really doesn't know exactly what's going on, but they get a good idea of how to help them. You're also teaching somebody else.
Good. Thank you, Cliff. And Gordon, I know, would you like to share your instance with from a bootstrapping perspective that you helped out with the Duncan chapter, I believe it was?
Sure. I think it was 3 years ago now. Duncan chapter was pretty much non-existent. That's an Oklahoma chapter that's about 30 miles or so from Lawton. And Great Plains chapter volunteered to do bootstrapping with the Duncan chapter. They had one member in our chapter, and Jeff Martin, who's the district governor of District 5A, was a member of the Duncan chapter, and they went from about two members up to about 7 the first year. Right now, they're sitting in double digits. I don't know the exact number right now, but one of the key parts from the bootstrapping program is it can be really simple or it can be a little complicated. With the Duncan chapter, it was, let's develop an agenda. Get an agenda, you follow it every week. Now let's work on a fundraiser. Let's work on presenting a couple of Amtrakes, which Kathleen Martin was in Great Plains chapter as a therapist, and she transferred to Duncan, which made perfect sense because her husband and daughter were already in Duncan. So that made perfect sense. They are getting ready to do another fundraiser that should be really good for them. But I think one of the key things for them from bootstrapping is they never submitted a scorecard. Now the hub score card, and this past year, Duncan chapter was a superior chapter. So in a short time, 2 or 3 years, they went from non-existent to now being a very relevant chapter. And they're continuing to grow, and they're continuing to add things to what they do.
Good stuff. Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah. Go ahead, DCV.
If you're still talking about mentorship, I was just going to kind of throw in here, the spark plug, which is also kind of the beginning. I think Atlanta kind of formed on its own. You could correct me, Kaylee, right? Yeah. So anyway, they did a great job, but having a spark plug, which leads into this mentorship program, is so very important. And I think along the way, this year, one of my tasks as past president and Gordon and I and Matt have talked about this. I'm going to be working on some on a format to help spark plugs know what they're supposed to do. And then perhaps if a chapter does form like Kaylee's did, we can find someone to spark plug them, because it's like the ultimate of mentorship. You're right there every time, and you do all the things that Gordon did. It's shocking when you realize that someone doesn't know how to make an agenda, nor have they ever used one. So that opens everyone's eyes. So you might hear the term spark plug along the way as well.
Good point. I would follow up with, of course, we, our Monday calls are now called the action hour, and I guess the call to action that I would lay down for everybody in attendance here. I know we've got good representation tonight from our regional directors. Obviously, if for our region directors, be mindful of the bootstrapping program. I've been pleased to see that you guys hyping up tonight's presentation, and going forward, if you'll just be mindful to make sure that those chapters in your region are aware that we have this program now going forward, and to encourage your chapters, while you're keeping an eye on how they're doing, make sure that you encourage those chapters to be mindful of our program, and that they're not out there alone. They're not on an island. Our whole organization is looking to help them be successful, and this is just one way that we are looking to provide that type of assistance. If you're in a chapter and there's any area that you feel like you need improvement on in any mentor areas, feel free to keep the lines. Feel free to reach out and communicate with your district governor and or your regional director to find out more about that particular area. We'd love to see our chapters, embrace the full gamut of AMBUCS programs that our organization offers. So, and if you're not doing scholarships, find out more about it. Every chapter can sponsor a scholarship. We'd love to see full participation in all these areas of AMBUCS that our organization offers. And if you haven't already, and you would like to volunteer for any of these mentor teams, as I mentioned earlier, we still have that questionnaire out there on the hub. So feel free to go out there and, sign up for something. Or if you know somebody that's an ace at one of those areas that you don't, and you're not sure if they're signed up for it or not, encourage them to go ahead and sign up for it, because the more folks we have out there, then the deeper, that's just so much more expertise that we have to offer for folks, and we can also have a lot of resources out there to be at the call for helping chapters in a true shoulders together fashion.
Matt, I want to thank you for the hard work that you've done, the hard work that the committee has done. This is not something that has been worked on for a month or two. It's actually, as Matt said, it's been a couple years project, and it's been a continuation from president to president to president, and we'll probably continue that in the foreseeable future. However, we're now at the point that you're going to see some results of the hard work. A lot of assistance is available to you. One part of mentorship, and there's 3 black hatters on this call and the National Big Hat president. Mentorship also includes Big Hat. If you don't have a established Big Hat program, contact Terry or a black hatter and get help with establishing a chapter Big Hat program. The Big Hats are a very important part of a chapter, especially for membership. And I guess Big Hats, they just like to have a lot of fun along the way. So membership and fun. And The strategic plan, as Matt said, you're not going to see anything on that this year. It'll probably be during Matt's year or whoever the president that follows him, where you'll see a lot on the strategic plan. However, you're going to see when it comes out, you're going to see a lot. It starts with chapter building, continues on establishment of partnerships and alliances. And the last part of that is developing and keeping AMBUCS an organization of excellence. And everything that we're working on falls under mentorship, but like bootstrapping, the future spark plug, they have specific names for help and assistance. But all of them are mentorship assistant opportunities. Cliff Burley is on the awards committee. Cliff, I know you're blind to the awards committee on establishing a point system. I did talk to Anna Bluebaugh the other night about it, and I'll be sending out an email about what I would like you guys to look at in the next couple of days.
Okay.
Are there any
Love that.
questions? Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's great.
Okay. All right. And as I like to keep things timely, this is scheduled for 7:30 to end. It's according to my little iPhone, it says it's 7:17. As long as we've covered the information, that's great. Or if there's questions, we can certainly sit here and discuss them. There's plenty of people on here that had a lot of work in the bootstrapping program. So feel free. If there's no questions, then we will sign off. And just to let you know, the next action hour will be on fundraising. I've already asked Luann Chapman, who gave a fabulous presentation at National Conference, to do a very similar program for us in October. So I would invite everybody to come back and bring some more of your friends. That's going to be on October 13th at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. So are there any questions?
I have one, and I apologize if it's loud. Like I'm walking my dog while my son's at football practice. So I know it's like I can hear the cars. But just like how, I don't know, has there been any like thought of like how can we involve or like the chapters that are geographically displaced? Like, is there a way that we can try to like involve them? Like, I just know like it's totally different. And like it's been really hard like to make it to like regional conference because it's a short weekend. It's usually like 15 hours away from where like myself or like Fargo is, and I'm sure like other chapters too. So just ways, or even like the executive board meetings, like just a way that like, because sometimes that's really hard because I know what it can look like because I was in Mountain Metro and super close to everything, and then we moved. So it's just hard to connect like at that level. And I think that's where I struggle. And I know I've had conversations with Kristen and Fargo, and I know she struggles with that too, but just, I don't know. Sometimes it does. I know we're not on an island, but sometimes we're kind of on an island because it's just hard to connect in some of those traditional ways.
I totally understand what you're going through being in North Dakota.
It was a choice.
Yeah, it was. And one of the things that I would say is we need to connect the dots, as Donna Carlton Vish used to say a lot. Establish another chapter in South Dakota, maybe one in Nebraska. However, there's some people on here that like to travel.
There are.
And we are more than willing to come up to North Dakota. I've actually promised you for about 2 years, and we've just never made that connection.
Well, I'm never home in the summer.
Yeah, yep.
I can
Well,
go in the summertime.
and I love going to North Dakota in the winter.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, exactly. But some of the things that we can do is, obviously travel up there to be with you, but we can make connections by Zoom. Uh, there's a lot of stuff you can resolve by having Zoom meetings, and and then uh, and then continue on and determine what help you actually need, and then maybe we need to make sure that we make in-person visits uh, up to North Dakota in this case.
Well, and I don't know that I expect that, or that's even like, I don't know. I don't know that that's what I'm looking for, but I know like the executive board meeting, like our chapter doesn't end up, like we don't end up having a voice or being able to vote on any of that stuff because we're not there in person. But it's also not feasible for me to travel
Are
14
you talking
hours.
about, are
Like,
you talking about the Great Plains Region Executive Board meeting?
right. Yes.
Yeah. And we can always set that up by Zoom, but I know we've had problems with that in the past. I know Brian has been working on that to try to
I know
make
I bug
it.
him relentlessly.
Yeah,
So
exactly. As you should. Brian needs a little bugging at times. But Brian, I believe, is more than willing to set up the Zoom meetings. We just have to make sure that we have proper communications with you guys and get it set up.
sure. But sometimes I don't know. It's just, I think that's been the struggle. It's just getting,
Yeah.
and I feel like
And
like I know like the members in my chapter, like I don't know. I think it's just, I don't think they see the big AMBUCS picture because I've never gotten to be a part of it or chosen to be a part of it. So I don't know.
Christina,
Yes.
I know that there is another region that is doing their regional exec meeting all via Zoom. So maybe that would even work out. I mean, it wouldn't be specific to Great Plains, but it could give your chapter some opportunities to see, how other areas function, and are basically doing the same things. And even when it came to region conference, the national news and some of the officer training and so on, I know Western does it via Zoom, and you could
Yes. When
tap
we hop
into
on that
that.
one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I always do the Western one. So
Yeah, I knew you did, but that way they could feel a little bit more. I mean, it's not quite like Great Plains,
Hmm.
but it would be something.
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's
I
where
think
we have to work on connecting the dots. And because what I feel like she's saying too is, again, y'all in there Great Plains are very connected because you don't have to go that very far for the next chapter, or you got 2 or 3 in the same city. And so I think the more we, as all of us on here and mentors and those who are deciding to really help out this, we got to work on connecting those dots and not jumping way over here for a new chapter, but keeping it to where we get them connected to where then Christina would be around some other chapters other than just one that's still a good distance away.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with that. And tell Mark to fire up the engines and stop by Lawton, and we'll make a drive to North Dakota.
There you go. Ready for it. We love going up there.
If there's a baseball team up there, Jenny will go.
We have the Larks. They're like a, I don't know,
There you go.
I don't know what they are. Like a smaller league. The Northwoods League. That's what they're in, whatever that is.
Well, and I
Okay.
think in addition to connecting with neighboring chapters, I think there's also something to be said for connecting with chapters that are going through similar things that you're going through. Like, I know I originally got, started Atlanta AMBUCS because I used to work with Statesboro AMBUCS. Well, Statesboro AMBUCS neighbored off of the Savannah chapter, which is flourishing and incredible. So we kind of had that almost bootstrap program just embedded in our Statesboro community. But Statesboro is, it's a small town. Everybody knows everybody. Fundraising was really easy. I'm in Atlanta. And you would think that being in such a giant area, that fundraising would be easier because there's a lot of people and a lot of money. And I have found the opposite to be true because there's a lot of people and none of them talk to each other and they all keep their money to themselves. It has been incredibly difficult to like break into like the Atlanta world. And although I have connected with other neighboring chapters, the majority of the neighboring chapters are in smaller areas where fundraising looks completely different. So I'm trying to currently network with like bigger cities or chapters that are in bigger cities that are dealing with the same hardships that I struggle out here, y'all. I'm struggling. It ain't Statesboro anymore. I'm like clicking my heels, like I'm in the Wizard of Oz. Like this is not the same as it was when I ran the first chapter. But we're trying.
Personally, with a chapter that we've worked with in Indianapolis, and where I live personally is only like an hour and a half from Indy, so it's close. But Indy's a big city, hard to make those connections. Chicago, another giant city, very difficult. There have been chapters up there, and they have always struggled. So I feel for you. One of the things that we discovered was I don't know, are you in the city proper, like really downtown?
So, well, I live in like North Atlanta, so I'm actually about an hour north outside of the city, but we've helped kids all over Atlanta. And we've actually done a couple bikes as far as Chattanooga and Macon, which are upwards of 2-3 hours outside of Atlanta. So I cover a pretty big radius with what I can. So I mean, the clinic that I operate out of is unique in that I have kids that come in from all over the South. So I have a kid that comes in and they're like, "Hey, I'd love a bike." And I'm like, "Fantastic. I don't care where you live. I'll do it." Now funding it is the hard part. I would really love funding. We have like $3 in the bank account right now. I can't even afford flyers to go do an event.
Greg Ackles, I think, is on the call. He was earlier, and he is your region director and has a chapter in Birmingham, Alabama. So it's big city. I think he could be of great help to you.
Just started connecting with him. Hopefully he's going to come to town soon and hang out with us. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna work out something to come over and visit and give her the best ideas I can. Being an hour north of Atlanta actually may help because are you familiar with the Eagle Ranch? Have you met anybody from there? It's a boys and girls ranch, and it's got to be pretty close to you. And he knows everybody in that area, and he's the guy I went to high school with, so I may be able to get you connected with him and some of his contacts. But definitely plan on coming over there and seeing if I can help some way.
Heck yeah, absolutely. And Gordon, I'd love to connect with you as well. I saw your message and then I lost it.
Okay. Yeah, it was just Jenny and I are planning
There it
some
is.
trips. My wife, who's on the call in the red hat. We're traveling around this week. We're going to be in Pennsylvania. But in the future, in September and especially in October, we have days available, and our youngest boy probably would not like a visit from us, but we're going to give him one anyway.
But so much. That's fantastic.
Okay, are there any other questions? All right, I want to thank everybody for being on this action hour tonight. This is a good group of people throughout our AMBUCS cities and communities around the nation. And I would encourage you guys to spread the word. If you got something out of this, spread the word, get other people to come on here, and then just remember, spread the word about what the bootstrapping program is. I think the slides will be posted on the hub so that you can get access to it. And then remember that next month is going to be on fundraising. So if you need fundraising help, we're going to have a person that obviously knows how to do fundraising come and do the action hour next month. So with that, I will close this action hour and thank you very much for attending.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.